Well, welcome to First Congregational. Glad that you can join us online this wintry day in March. We usually start with welcoming and announcements, and just we want to make sure that everyone feels welcome, and glad that you can join us online. And I think Pastor Brett has some announcements.
Solidarity for a Better World will be 2 weeks from tomorrow, March 30th at 6:30. Please join us for that. Todd's going to be presenting on Dolores Huerta, so please join us for that. And then there will be a No Kings rally on March 28th, starting in South Sioux and going to the Public Museum in Sioux City. We'd also like to announce that there's a nonprofit organization called Midstep Services that is in search of guardians for adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. If you'd like more information on that, on how you might be able to help someone who is unable to make some decisions for themselves, please let me know, or you can look online. We'll post it later on our church's Facebook page. Any other announcements? Okay. That looks like that will be good for that. So I want to welcome you myself to First Congregational United Church of Christ, a community of faith where you matter. You matter no matter your abilities or disabilities, your successes or your failures, for your worth is in who you are, not what you can or can't do. You matter as a transgender person, a female, a male, a non-binary person, or one whose gender identity is none of the above. You matter whether you are an immigrant, a Native American, a citizen, a refugee, or a visitor or a transplant from another nationality. For we are all the children of God and are created equally in our worth. We all matter here. We are a community who values all persons, no exceptions.
Today, as we center ourselves for worship, I will read the leader part, and then I'll pause, and then I'll also read the... okay, and Pastor Brett can do the other. Let's center ourselves for worship. Oh God, we are afraid to be vulnerable and trusting. We're afraid of being sheep in a world we perceive as full of wolves.
But we prefer to find our own green pastures and still waters rather than to be led to those that are your choices, but mysteries to us.
When we trust you, we find that your presence does indeed give us peace, no matter where we are.
In that peace, we feel our souls refreshed and restored.
And yet, we still wander off in our own ways, lost sheep who go astray.
We think there are greener pastures than the ones you provide, and we fear when your call to service takes us through dark valleys.
Help us to be content with the awareness of your presence in all aspects of our lives.
Help us not to resist where you lead, but to follow faithfully, trusting that you will be there in all the circumstances of our lives.
For we are only comforted when we trust rather than fear, and it is only then when we are willing to sit down at a table that welcomes both us and our enemies.
Remind us that goodness and mercy will follow us, and our cup will overflow when we follow you rather than our own ways.
May we dwell and abide in your house, following your house rules our whole lives long.
For your ways of love and peace are sufficient for us.
We are assured of their efficacy, even in the shadow of the valley of death, for you are always with us.
With you in our lives, we are unafraid.
With you, we can be faithful while also being vulnerable.
Thank you for being our shepherd.
And now we have a hymn, God is My Shepherd, which Michael is going to sing for us. Thank you, Michael.
God is my shepherd, I'll not want, I feed in pastures green. God grants me rest and bids me drink from waters calm and clean. Through daily tasks I am blessed and led by one I have not seen. Restored to life each morning new, I rise up from the dust to follow God, whose presence gives me confidence and trust. I praise the name of God today. In God I put my trust. When I must pass through shadowed vale where loss and death await, I will not fear, for God is there, my shepherd strong and great, whose rod and staff will comfort me, and all my fears abate. No enemy can overcome, no power on earth defeat the ones anointed by God's grace and fed with manna sweet. My cup is filled and overflows as I my Savior greet. Goodness and mercy all my days will surely follow me. And where God reigns in heaven and earth, my dwelling place will be. My shepherd blesses, cares, and leads through all eternity.
Do you have a time for children? Okay, sure. All right.
Today's children's message is about Phyllis, and I think Emberlin's out wandering around, and that's fine. She's having fun. That's a good thing. Did want to say, and I knew this was going to be in our announcements, but today about 5 o'clock in the morning, found out that Phyllis had passed away, and I wanted to talk a little bit about her life. We know that her favorite song was Amazing Grace, and that word grace, I think, was very important to her in her faith. And I think she found grace in two different ways, and we've all heard her say this, right? Coming to church, she found grace here with us, and she also found it among the birds. And today I did bring my favorite bird book in honor of Phyllis. And Phyllis is one of the few people that are still here that were at First Congregational when it was back on Nebraska Street over by Central High School. There's only a few left, and she had grown up in the Whiting United Church of Christ. And so she's probably been going to church for the last 88 or 89 years, almost every single Sunday. And it was a very important thing to her. And I'm sure that along the way she came across the 23rd Psalm. And this morning she did get to go actually walk through the valley of the shadow of death. And I think that Phyllis knew the still waters along the way. And, where she was restored with Bob when they watched birds and also when they came to church. And some people, I think, like Phyllis, they don't talk a lot about their faith. And they sit here among us and they watch birds with their husband, and they are still and they know God is God. And I think Phyllis would have that saying that surely goodness followed her throughout her life. And it is something for us to be mindful of, that she found it here among us, some of that goodness of her life. And she knew that it was special to be here in this community. And I think we can hold that and treasure our own community with her example, and also the community that's outside those windows, the community of birds. She would watch birds, and I think she treasured life. So if the message for today is anything, let's try to live into the faith of Phyllis that treasures this community, but also treasures the wider community, birds, and all our friends out there.
Thank you, Todd. Well, at the top of our prayer list is Phyllis Nicholson, and we know that she has lived a good life, well-lived life, and we pray not only for God to receive her into God's welcoming arms, but also that we ourselves may pray for and bless her family and loved ones and friends in this time ahead, especially asking prayers for Bob and their children. I will also ask prayers for my mother. She's also not doing very well, hasn't been eating well, and so please keep my mother, Ruth Ann, in your prayers as well. And we pray, too, for all the victims of this unnecessary war started by the United States and Israel, and for the degradation of the environment as chemical weapons are being used by Israel and oil fields have been bombed by the United States. The total lack of respect for nature as well as human lives is truly appalling in this time, especially because it enriches the arms suppliers and our congresspeople, but no one else. They stand to profit by starting and keeping wars going on, and we need to find another way. So please keep those things. Does anyone else present have any prayer requests? All right. Let us be in silent meditation as we take our hearts to God. I'll follow with a pastoral prayer, which I adapted from another pastor, Peter Scagnelli. So basically, he started it off, and I kind of made some adaptations. Let us be in silent meditation at this time. Peace-loving God, in whose image and likeness each of us has been created, remind us all of each other's dignity and worth as you prod us to respect one another and this earth. Tune our ears to the cries that rise from every part of this fragile earth. Forbid that we look away from our human and earthly family torn by violence of war. Give us resilience to ever protest the evils our country commits on those in other parts of the world. To world leaders, grant the wisdom to see beyond the boundaries of race, religion, and nation to that common identity that makes us all your children and brothers and sisters to one another. To those who have taken up arms to pad their own pockets, stop their recklessness and give them consciences to end all preemptive violence. To those who have been targeted and have responded in anger or revenge or even in the cause of justice, Grant the grace of conversion to the path of peaceful dialogue and constructive collaboration. To the innocent who live in the shadow of war and terror, especially the frightened children, be a shelter and strength, their haven and hope. And to those who have already lost their lives as victims of human cruelty and chemical warfare, open wide your arms and enfold them all in the embrace of your compassion, healing, and everlasting life. But most importantly, give us the courage of our convictions to condemn the monstrosities of war by our nation and of kidnapping, human trafficking, and incarcerating our immigrant neighbors in violation of their civil and human rights. May we rise up in numbers gigantic and with resolve undeniable, that we may force our government to stop the evils in which they are unleashing on the innocent, near and far. Make us worthy followers of Christ Jesus, who spoke and acted against the values of empire and taught us how to create an egalitarian world in which we are all treated lovingly and equitably. Grant us strength and determination for the years to come, where we will need to support one another as the rich have gone to war with the masses. May we overcome. Blessings may we be for one another.
This is our unison prayer. Let us pray. Loving Spirit, who is here and there, we're grateful for your tender care. Your virtues rise, your values prized, near and far and everywhere. Feed our bodies and feed our souls, and by forgiveness make us whole. And may we all evils deplore as we search and sail for mercy's shore. May peace and love within us rule, and justice be your Spirit's tool, now and always, for us and others, and for all creation. May we make it so, all as one, by your inspiration. And now we're going to sing My Shepherd is the Living God in the hymnal.
My shepherd is the living God, I therefore nothing need. In pastures fair the sure provisions of my God attend me all my days. O may your house be my abode, and all my work be praised. There would I find a settled rest, while others come and go. No more a stranger or a guest, but like a child at home.
Our reading today comes from the Psalms. It's probably one of the most familiar passages in the whole Bible, written by supposedly King David. I believe I heard that he was written near the end of his life. It's interesting that he says that goodness followed him throughout the course of his life, through all the things that he went through. But this is what he says in Psalm 23. God is our shepherd. We will not have to want for anything. God entices us to lie down in green pastures and leads us beside still waters. God restores our souls and leads us in right path for the sake of God's ways. Even though we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, we fear no evil. For you are with us, your rod and your staff, they comfort us. You prepare a table before us in the presence of our adversaries. You anoint our head with oil, and our cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy will follow us all the days of our lives, and we will dwell in the abode of God all our whole lives long. This is the reading from Psalm 20.
These are trying and anxious times for us. I have heard numerous friends express that every morning they wake up and wonder, I quote, what fresh new hell they will experience with the Trump regime accosting us and the rest of the world. It seems that every single day brings a new level of horror and terror. We are at war unnecessarily, not only with countries in the Middle East, but a war that started well before that, with the rich and powerful going to war with the masses of people. They have attacked our health care, our incomes, our freedoms, and have intentionally increased our costs by tariffs and other means so as to further pad their already stuffed pockets. We are being robbed and stolen from by corrupt grifters and oligarchs. Our neighbors are being kidnapped, humanly trafficked, and incarcerated in concentration camps with no due process. Our government, all three branches, seem to be turned against us and democracy itself in order to promote fascism. Corporations now have more rights than we do as individuals. Our world is being polluted and pillaged, and legislation to stop this from happening is being stripped away and replaced by that which benefits the polluters. The threat of nuclear war looms, and some in leadership positions actually want it to happen, so that in their minds Christ will return to save the few and damn the many. All of this is repulsive and abominably evil. But it is where we are. And so we are living in anxious times in which we have little, if no assurance, that things will get better. It is times like these that we most fervently want to listen to the psalmist, that we want God to come and shepherd our world. We long for assurances like we had only a little over a year ago, when we could wake up without dread of what new atrocity we were going to greet each morning. But this is what fascism does. It makes us anxious, nervous, fearful, and resigned to think that we can do little, if anything, to change the course made for us by others who are unethical and unintelligent. But we don't have to be complicit or compliant. We can take ownership of the situation and do all in our power to correct it. Plato once said, one of the penalties for refusing to participate in politics is that you end up being governed by your inferiors, unquote. We are certainly living that reality in our country today. The entire government is a kakistocracy, a rule by the most incompetent, unscrupulous, unqualified, and immoral persons. The entire nation has been filled with the swamp of corruption, greed, and the desire for totalitarian control over others. It is repulsive. And we are often left every single day in shock over how they can become more and more vile day by day. Fortunately, at least in a way, this is nothing new. Throughout human history, we have seen such horrific regimes form and rule for a time. They always implode given their self-destructing corruption and power grabs, but not before they take many with them, far too many with them. When it looks like something will finally bring them down, they commit even worse atrocities to divert attention from what had finally taken hold, loosening our grip so that our attentions are diverted to trying to survive under fresh new evils. Any student of history recognizes the patterns, repeated it again and again by the most evil empires that have ever existed. And now we are amidst yet another one. Will God save us? Will God shepherd us out of this situation? That is the hope of many. But hope based only on God or someone else working on our behalf never seems to pan out. It takes us collectively to rise up and resist the evils in our midst. God doesn't seem to save those who refuse to try to save themselves. That too is revealed repeatedly in history. As Bangambiki Habaramana states in The Great Pearl of Wisdom, quote, "The world will not be destroyed by evil people, but by good people who do nothing to stop it." Hopefully there will always be, he says, good people, courageous enough to take on the bad guys. This is the only way humanity can hope for salvation, unquote. Good people, the people of God, must act to oppose evil, or evil will defeat them. God will not save us from our own inaction. We are to be the hands, feet, and heart of God in this world. Our actions reveal God's power within and between us. We can't be like the one who only prayed to God in a flood, and upon drowning asked God why God didn't save him. In the story, God replied, "I told you to vacate through the news, sent a boat, and even a helicopter to rescue you. but you kept expecting me to do it in another way than having you taking some initiative yourself. Yes, as the psalmist says, God does entice us to lie down in green pastures and leads us beside still waters, but not to stay there. God leads us to such places in order for us to develop a strategy to go back into the world and counteract the evil within it. God restores our souls so that we will have the courage, the determination, and the perseverance and wherewithal to be led on right paths for the sake of God's ways. Not our ways, but God's ways. Too many so-called Christians think that their faith journey should be easy street. That living by faith doesn't require any sacrifice from them. That it doesn't require them to live by their principles when the going gets tough. But I ask you, was this Jesus' way? Of course not. Jesus took up his cross, and he told us to do the same. And we are in this season of Lent, a season to prepare us for the resurrection living of Easter. Can we have resurrection lives without the death of our former selves? Can we rise to life eternal if we have not had our fears and our fealty to empire and our infidelity to God's way crucified on the cross of our own courageousness? The psalmist, like Jesus, understands that faithfulness will require us to walk through, not around, the valley of the shadow of death. How can you espouse and manifest God's values in a world that is antithetical to them without putting your safety, security, and even life at risk? We know from history that evil people always target the good people first. For the good people are the ones they well know will do everything in their power to oppose them. Good people will not remain quiet. Good people won't refuse to act in opposition to evil. Good people are always the ones whom the quote earlier said will be the courageous enough to take on the bad guys. And isn't this what Jesus and the apostles did? Weren't they martyred for their loyalty to God's ways instead of Caesar's ways? And wasn't their example that which still lives today as testimony to how we should follow in their ways? Perhaps the psalmist overstates the legitimate fears that good people have of evil people and claim that they will no longer fear evil. An Episcopal bishop in New Hampshire recently told the pastors under his charge that they need to write their wills because of what's going on in our country today, because they may have to be martyred in order to stand up for what is right under this regime. And I think we all need to take that seriously, of what we are to do when confronted with true evil. Evil that not only takes out 167 schoolgirls that targeted that school in the name of the United States of America, but is putting thousands into concentration camps and building more camps to put even more people in. That is evil. And we must do all we can to stop it, even at risk to ourselves. The psalmist says it will have no fear of evil, but I'm not sure that's entirely accurate. Fear of negative consequences for righteous actions is unavoidable unless you're a morally perfect person. But the psalmist still has a point. While we might fear for our physical, emotional, psychological, political, economic, and social well-being, for acting in accordance with the paths of righteousness, we will not let those fears distract or detain us from those right paths. When we are spiritually and ethically in tune with God's ways, then we don't fear what may happen to us that can be caused by others. For our strength, our power, resides in the integrity we have in staying true to God's ways. Empires, nationalism, fascism, false religion, bigotry, prejudice may tempt us to act in accordance with our own self-centered interests, at the demise of others who are claimed to be different from us. But God reminds us that we are all siblings of one another. We are the same, not different. We are all born with the same spirit God placed within us all, no matter where we're from. And we all want to love and be loved, no matter our race, religion, nationality, ethnicity, or immigration status. Evil people will entice us to look out for ourselves and despise others, even go to war with them. They will use rhetoric to turn us against one another, calling immigrants illegal, calling Mexicans drug dealers and rapists, calling people from African nations as, well, I'm not going to repeat that. And lying about Haitians eating people's pets. No veracity whatsoever. And calling people who simply disagree with them as terrorists so as to justify killing them. And far too many people buy into the rhetoric and start hating those who are not the problem. The rich and the powerful use hate-filled rhetoric to turn the rest of us against one another. And we need to see it for what it is. But good people of faith say, no, that is not the way of God, and it will not be my way. I am one who is led by God on right paths. I am one who would rather walk through the valley of the shadow of death than to live a longer life enveloped in constant fear of being injured or persecuted for allowing the evil ones of this world to determine my conduct. I'd rather die with integrity intact than to live by freely giving away my integrity due to my fears. That is what good people say. When one has that kind of resolve to stay true to God's way of love, we don't have fear. Not in the spiritual and ethical sense, we don't. Fears of death and destruction to one's own being are cast aside. Character, we know, matters more than even our livelihoods. Virtue displayed in community matters more than personal prudence, practice, and private. To extend the metaphors of the psalmist, the table set before us of community comes to matter more to oneself than the buffet of self-interest. The inner presence of God matters more to oneself than the outer presence of adversaries who tempt us to forget God's ways. The oil of healing justice, peace, and loving kindness, anointed on our heads and our spirit, comes to matter more than the windfall of destruction, injustice, war, and domination over others. Our cup of joy overflowing is in doing what is right and good. And that will always matter more to good people than the cask of wealth and power. These values must be true for us all if we are to live by God's ways rather than our own ways. Otherwise, goodness and mercy will not follow us all the days of our lives, and we will not dwell in the abode of God our whole lives long. Only when we make God's values more important than those of human societies steeped in inequalities will goodness and mercy emanate from our very beings, such that they seem to follow us wherever we go. That is what the psalmist was alluding to. That is the life we are to lead. That is the life in which Jesus told us to follow him. But are we willing to follow? Are we willing to let God shepherd us rather than having empire shepherd us? Are we willing to work for the preservation of green pastures rather than the desertification of lands by acid rain and soot from burning oil fields caused by war? Are we willing to let God lead us beside still and pure waters rather than to be incited to create turbulent and violent waters of the Strait of Hormuz? Are we willing to let God restore our souls or fall for Trump's false promises to restore our fortunes and make America great again? Are we willing to let God lead us in right paths? Or do we instead follow Israel and their genocidal mission of their neighbors throughout the Middle East so that they can claim all the lands between the Euphrates and the Mediterranean, as Zionists have longed to do since 1948 or before? Are we willing to walk with God through the valley of the shadow of death on right paths? Or would we rather lounge by the seaside in Gaza, where Palestinians were displaced and exterminated so as to create a resort for the rich and the famous? Are we willing, with the assurance of God's values habituated in us, to spiritually and ethically fear no evil that threatens to come our way? Or will we prefer to be assured that we will be superior to those that white supremacists now in power tell us that we are better than? The psalmist describes scenes where God is present with us. But within the full context of the Scriptures, we know that God is most present to us when we ourselves act in accordance with God's ways. Our task is to make God present to one another by acts of benevolence, beneficence, and compassion. And so we must ask ourselves, when will we provide a table for those who are oppressed? When will we be the face and hands of God in this world, who've decided to include, welcome, and affirm all people, regardless of their race, religion, ethnicity, skin color, sexual identity, or other distinguishing qualities, in the midst of our adversaries? When will we be the presence of the divine to those who are most in need of the oil of healing on their heads? And when will we demand of those in power that the impoverished and oppressed have their cups overflowing with good things? When will our actions and practices, those we practice for all the days of our lives, Reveal God's own goodness and mercy to those who are in most need of that goodness and mercy. My friends, whenever that day comes, that is the day when we will henceforth, as the psalmist says, dwell in the abode of God our whole lives long. May we make it so. Amen. We'll have Michael sing to us our hymn, O God, Who Does Love Me.
O God, who does love me and brought me to birth, with me through my childhood you welcomed my birth. I still can remember when to you I would pray. You promised to love me, to never skip a day. O God, who does love us, it's clear life's not fair. But you walk beside us, your tears show you care. You give us the freedom to choose our own way. We thank you for loving us, a love that never strays. O God, who does love us in sickness and shame, you judge not our weakness, you seek not to blame. You lead us by waters still, in pastures green we lie. You wreathe our soul, God, our tears you make them dry. O God, who does love us midst death's valley drear, our fears are all vanquished, 'cause you hold us dear. You lay down beside us when we cannot stand up. You tell us you love us, our God, it is enough. O God, who does love us beyond mortal veil, we scarce can imagine a heavenly dale. We rest with assurance that you will be our guide. We trust all our anguish will be by your love subside.
And now's the time for our tithes and offerings, and this today obviously it's a little different. If you'd like to give online, you can go to our website. How do you find our website? You can punch into Google United Church of Christ, First Congregational, Sioux City, and you'll find our website there. And then there is a Tithely app there or site that where you can give your tithes or offerings there. And so we welcome you to do that, and that would lead us to our special music by Michael.
Lakes and fells, emerald isles and winding bays, mountain paths
Thank you, Michael. We are blessed to have you and the music that you share with us. Thanks. This is our unison prayer of dedication. O God, be with those for whom these gifts are given, and bless us who give them, that we may dedicate ourselves as well, and passionately move against the ugliness and injustice and violence in your world without becoming unjust or ugly or abusive. Teach us again and again that the reward for loving is having our capacity to love stretched, to include even those we define as enemies. So would we dare to live as vagabonds of faith, risking something big for something right, challenging all that shrinks and separates people, pressing on toward the freedom that enlarges life by sharing it with all our brothers and sisters, and empowering us not to be afraid in Christ's name and spirit. May it be so. Now our song of dedication.
The light of love does shine most bright when all our siblings in our sight. We are one family on this earth. We are God's children from our birth.
Hear these words of encouragement, which are by the Reverend Jim Burklow. When beauty illumines a corner of your life, may your thanks to God spread that light through your whole being. When you taste the threat of darkness, may you find the light of the world that still shines deep inside you. When you are held back by overgrowth of habit and smugness and prejudice, may you hear the voice of God showing you the way ahead to care and to serve. When you're loved by another in even the smallest way, may you know that you have touched the hem of God's garment and receive the fullness of the love of God that flows through it. We sing now, "Let There Be Peace on Earth."
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, a peace that was meant to be, with God our Creator. Children all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my solemn vow, to take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I did already come. 'Tis grace has brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. The Lord has promised good to me. His word my hope secures. He will my shield and portion be, as long as life endures. Amazing grace, amazing